I may take a couple quick ones, and then I'd like everyone to celebrate and go out and have a great night. What can I do for? And
Totally.
yeah, sure.
Yeah, you have really, you've created this whole, trend of delivering to the AEW fans. So do you feel that, delivering to the fans as far as the product and the talent, do you feel like that's what makes AEW, no pun intended this time, all elite than any other company in the business?
I think we have the best roster of wrestlers, and we do the best job managing the shows, putting the shows together, and we have a great team, and I'm really proud of what we do. And no, there's no wrestling company like AEW in the world. I'm very proud of it.
Thank you.
Thank you.
You've had 3 surprises tonight. How long and did it take you?
I think I had. Did I? Well, did I have 4?
4. Minoru Suzuki.
Oh yeah.
5. You have the butcher.
Well, I brought the butcher back. I wouldn't include. I think that's where we'll give AJ a break on that one. He's part of the full-time roster. But with Suzuki, I would say we had 4. But you're right. We had 3 big ones coming to the full-time AEW roster. So in that sense, you're absolutely right, AJ, with Ruby Soho and Bryan Danielson and Adam Cole.
How long did it take you to set up all of it?
Well, in a sense, it honestly took a couple of years to get to this point, because it's definitely the most work I've ever in one night for so much stuff to come together. And there's nights like this in sports, like when you win a playoff game or something really special, and you're like, you think back to all the moments that took place for that to happen, and it's a big deal. And this feels like that, but it's really the amount of planning that went into this. I mean, honestly, it goes way back, and it's really special. And to get CM Punk here is something he and I had talked about for a really, really long time. And like he said, maybe you couldn't pinpoint exactly when the tide turned, but it just felt like the longer we talked and the more common ground we shared, the better it went. And then the timing of Bryan Danielson's contract expiring, you couldn't make that up, and the timing of that being at the same time, and all these things culminated with the return of the fans too. I think we did a really good job navigating the pandemic and putting on good wrestling shows where we set ourselves apart from the competition and made ourselves a really attractive destination where wrestlers would want to sign as a free agent. So it took, I would say, over 18 months of planning, and the first dance was a huge step in it, the signing of Punk, and then these other things really fell into place in such a magnificent way with the signing of Ruby Soho, the signing of Bryan Danielson, and then really I was shocked that Adam Cole thing came together, very surprising too. So it's been a great year and a half in some ways. It's been a really challenging year and a half in other ways, but I think this is the most rewarding culmination of the past year and a half, which really goes back to the beginning of the pandemic. And so there's been a lot of terrible things, but I think this is a really great night for the wrestling fans and for everybody here. I'm just glad it was so special and people had so much fun.
Tony, you've had a very eventful last few weeks. Can you just walk us through the emotions that you felt from Punk debuting to getting Adam Cole and Bryan Danielson and Ruby Soho, and all that coming together so fast? If you could just walk us through your emotions through all that.
Well, it's been pretty amazing. It's been a roller coaster of emotions. I'll leave the other things out of it because it's pretty amazing all the different things that I'm fortunate and blessed to be able to do in my life, because I live kind of more than a triple life. I'm working in the NFL and working in English football, and I'm very proud of the things happening there too, and that's a big part of my life. But really this has been huge. Really, this is one of the great nights of my life, and I've had some great nights. And this took a lot of planning, and but it's been amazing. The first dance was one of those indelible memories in wrestling, and something that we gave everybody that they didn't have to pay for, as long as they had cable or some way to watch TNT, which isn't everyone, but a lot of people, and certainly everybody then was able to go back and watch that moment on YouTube, and most of that stuff is there for the world to watch, and people have seen that clip. It's gone super viral. The first dance, ESPN, I guess it was the biggest social media post they had since May, which includes the Summer Olympics, the NBA Finals, and the European Championships. So to say it covered a lot of ground and was a big moment, not just in wrestling, but honestly, one of the biggest moments this year in sports. The first dance helped us set the path to this and really build the foundation for this show. We had such a stacked card. It's been coming together for a long time, building to this, all these Young Bucks matches with the outside interference. So building to, hey, I'm going to set no outside interference for this match by putting a steel cage around the ring and taking the top 4 teams, and whoever the best team is, they're going to get a fair shot on the pay-per-view. Well, it came together in what my opinion is one of the great cage matches I've ever seen, one of the great tag matches I've ever seen, and just one of the best cards I've seen, and really top to bottom. And when you look at Kenny Omega and Christian, what a great match they delivered. They had such a great match on the debut of Rampage that really helped build this into a great match on the card. And then that match, of course, it was tremendous bell to bell and laid the groundwork for all these amazing moments at the end of the show too, after the great match. Dr. Britt Baker had, in my opinion, the best wrestling match she's had, period, not just since she won the title, but her best match. And Chris Statlander came out and really delivered. She was a great #1 contender. She had been undefeated all year, and that was as good a match, I thought, as she's had in AEW or anywhere too. So I was really, really proud of the card, top to bottom, to be able to bring in Ruby Soho. Like I said, what an amazing professional, and it was a great pleasure. First time we've actually met in person, let alone worked together, and working with her and all the women on the match. There were a lot of stories in that match, and I took a lot of pride in putting it together, because, you know, it's like, it wasn't just like 21 women coming in there. There's a lot going on with Anna Jay coming back and teaming with Ty Conti, and the alliance of Penelope and the Bunny, and of course we saw Nyla Rose and Jade team up to take out Thunder Rosa, to take out Julia, knock her out of this battle royal. They were battling with Thunder Rosa all night, and then they even, like we kind of saw they turned on each other. We saw Big Swole and Diamante ahead of the 3 strikes match they're going to have on Dark go at it, and we saw Jamie Hayter continue the issue with Red Velvet that had been boiling over, and Rebel came in and got involved in that. And of course, it was great to have so many stars back, international stars, Hikaru Shida and Riho, both former women's world champions, and Ami Sakura, and yeah, it was just Ruby Soho. What a great debut. So great to work with her, and really with all the women in the Battle Royale. I was really proud of that. And just top to bottom, like, the whole show was awesome. I could talk about everything on the card, but definitely Darby Allin versus CM Punk helped draw such a massive audience for us. And then that massive audience, I really believe, not only did they get our best wrestling matches, everything on the card, Eddie Kingston and Miro, Jon Moxley and Kojima, bringing Suzuki in, everything top to bottom. It was just so tremendous, and I was really proud of the work everyone did. And yeah, it was the greatest run, I think, of anything I've ever been on. And to say things are going well at Fulham, and we're sitting at the top of the table, and Mitro just signed an extension, like, that's pretty cool. So I love our new manager, Marco Silva. We have, like, a really great relationship, and we finished a transfer window, and I was working 24 hours a day for a while. I was literally running. I had a few days where I was working literally 24 hours. There was no sleep for a few days during the end of the transfer window, while I was between the end of putting the first dance together, putting these TVs together, setting up for the pay-per-view. The Jags were in the roster cutdowns, and I was working the English transfer window. So I didn't sleep for a few days, and I'm really proud how all of it's come together. And now I'm going to Houston for the Jags season opener next weekend after we get done with TV in Cincinnati. I was at our last preseason game in Dallas talking to Jerry Jones and Stephen Jones and Jerry Jr. about AEW, which was pretty cool, at halftime of a game that we won. And it was, hopefully we'll do some of that in the regular season now too. So it's been a lot of great stuff. Thank you.
Tony, you've had a great success with the top free agents recently. I saw you with that 4 Horsemen foam hand the other day. Ric Flair is out there. Have you talked to Rick? Do you see a place for Rick at AEW?
I have talked to Rick because he's one of my really, really close friends. I can't say about AEW, but what I've talked to him mostly about is his son-in-law, Andrade El Idolo, who is a top performer here, and he's one of our big stars, and he's got a huge match coming up on AEW Rampage on Friday night against Pac, and I really believe, Rick is a family-first person. He really cares about that, and he wants to see Andrade El Idolo do really well here. I'll tell you guys a true story. Rick visited, I don't know, was a word out? Did people hear Rick visited, has been around here? I think people have seen Rick around? Okay, so I had one of the greatest thrills of my life on this past week. I had a good amount of time where Rick was in the chair next to me while I called the shows, and it would be like sitting, coaching a basketball game and having Michael Jordan sitting in the seat over with you and come over to you later and say your command is like incredible. I'm so proud of you, I had no idea. And all the different things you were doing at once during the show, because I do a lot of different things on the headset during the show, between timing the show and announcers and cues and stuff, and just trying to keep things running smooth and keeping the guys calm and talking to people, and it's a hard job. And to have Ric Flair tell you did a great job is that's the greatest compliment as a wrestling person I can get. He's the reason I'm doing this. And he's been a great friend to me, not just we've never worked together ever. But I really care about him a lot, and I don't think there would be an AEW without him, because I probably wouldn't have done all this. I'm, Tony Flair at AOL.com since 1995. No, I really, I love him so much, and it was just great to have him here, and it's been a family thing this week.
Tony, somebody that's been a great heel that could get some Flair comparisons. Is like, and Cole mentioned him too, is MJF. Having that, like he did the Fargo strut, stuff like that. We all know MJF is kind of like knowledgeable and historian on a lot of the themes of the business and stuff. Talk about his growth throughout this whole storyline with Jericho and this feud with Jericho, and how you see him now in comparison to when he first started it.
When he first started in AEW, he was one of our top young stars, and at some point a long time ago, he went from being one of our top young stars to being one of our top stars. And when you hear me talk about our top young stars, there's a reason I almost never say his name, because he's one of our top stars, period, even though he is one of the youngest wrestlers here. His experience he's gained, he is a veteran, he is a leader in the locker room, not just bell to bell, not just the matches he puts together. People turn to him for advice like a veteran. The amount of people he's recommended to me, people that went to Creative Pro that he trained, he recommended Chris Statlander and Layla Hirsch to me personally. He called me up on the phone and recommended both of them. He recommended, I called him asking about Max Caster and Anthony Bowens. He gave me references, and then I said, do they get along with each other? And he said, I don't know. And I said, well, I have an idea. Bear Country, he's a number of people he's given me rep because he's got a great mind for it. But then forget about that, put that on the back burner for a second. Let's focus on what you're probably really thinking about, which is himself, his charisma, his promos, how he's developed as a wrestler even more. And being in there with Chris has helped a ton, because Chris is one of the all-time great wrestling minds, and they have so much in common. And at the same point, same age Max was at, think about everything Chris accomplished and how much insight Chris would have for Max. So the sky's the limit for MJF, absolutely. It's a great question. I can do a couple more. Yes?
Tony, fans everywhere, when they release any other talent in other company, they always consider AEW first, AEW first. How do you feel about fans thinking about that, and how do you deal with that?
Well, it's great. I think, we want to be, pun intended for Ruby, destination for Ruby Soho, or a destination for Bryan Danielson, or a destination for an Adam Cole, and a great destination for the Forbidden Door for wrestlers from other companies. But for any free agent in the world, I'm open for business, and I'm really interested. And we have, I think, the best roster in wrestling today. I really believe it. Dynamite, Rampage, our pay-per-views, we deliver a really quality show, and it's because we have such great wrestling talent, and we have from the beginning, and the roster has never been better or stronger. But I'm always looking and interested in adding people, so it's a great question.
Tony, we saw a bumper about Full Gear. It went from November 6th to November 13th, and was the switch based on just the Canelo Alvarez fight in the big UFC?
No, it had much to do with Usman and Canelo. Yeah, absolutely, Canelo and Usman. I really would prefer not to compete head to head with, honestly, not Canelo for one thing, but also Dana's a really good friend of mine, and I don't really see any point of taking money off each other's table if we have to. He's got a big pay-per-view show that day, and mine, I was actually able. When you find out what we got set, it's a logistical. It's a big change, but I think in the end, it probably is going to work out better for us. It'll work out for them, and then my friend and I both get to do our shows on back-to-back weekends and be very happy. So I think it's good.
Just a quick follow-up: is St. Louis still the destination?
I can't get into the destination, okay. But I will say that we will still be in St. Louis for Friday Night Rampage, which was that night before, and then that's all I can say for now.
Hangman Page is a guy who a lot of people were expecting to be headlining the show, and I'm sure you saw there was a little bit of disappointment there. There's nobody talking about being disappointed now. How does it feel to kind of erase that? And how much of the big stuff that happened on the show did you know whenever whatever decision was made to not have Hangman?
I had a feeling, but I had a lot of backup plans, but I would have given him the time off either way. Yeah. I mean, even if I didn't have the guys in, I would have found a way to make it work and accommodate him, because it was, for a very important reason. And so, he's a big part of AEW. He's one of our really important stars. I didn't have everything exactly, and I really didn't have everything exactly into place, until we got there. And I think you've all heard the story, which is true, that Punk didn't actually sign anything until that night. But we had a handshake, and I trusted him. And same thing with Bryan. Bryan and I think Bryan just signed. So I trusted him. We have a good relationship, and we built that. Same with Austin, with Adam Cole, excuse me. And so really with Adam Cole and with Bryan Danielson, and of course with CM Punk, with Ruby Riott, these things all kind of, I'm sorry, excuse me, I'll never do that again, excuse me, I'm very sorry. Ruby Soho, that'll be the last time you ever hear me do that. So with all these great stars, I wasn't sure everything was going to fall into place, but they all just kind of one by one started to look more likely. You know, when something's like, it's like this could happen, and then every day it starts to look a little bit better, and it's like Mr. Punk said, like, I don't know if there's a day I could put my finger on all these things and when they all were going to hit, but it just kept looking a little bit better every day. And definitely every good conversation I had with each of them felt a little bit better about what we were doing tonight. I can do one, I'll do AJ, then one more. What's up, AJ?
With Friday Night Rampage, we had Dark at that, but now Dark is being filmed in Orlando. What are we gonna have after Rampage? Will it just be a 1 hour show? Will there be
Well, Rampage is often taped on Wednesday. Not every week, but so basically the cadence I've fallen into is when we do a live Rampage, then we'll do Tape Dark that night. So it's like this past week we did Dynamite and we did Elevation beforehand, and then we did Rampage. We live this past week on the Go Home show, and we did Dark then. But if we fall, there's going to be times where Rampage might be taped on. We'll do Elevation before on Wednesday before we go live for Dynamite. Then we'll do Dynamite, and then we'll do Rampage after. So Elevation will be the pre-live matches, and then we'll go live with Dynamite, and then we'll film Rampage. Basically what we did in Milwaukee when we did the Jungle Boy and Luchasaurus versus the Lucha Brothers Eliminator final match where Giannis the Greek Freak was there. That was kind of how we handled that. So, and then if there's a live Rampage, I'll tape Dark there. But there's going to be a lot of times where Elevation, Dynamite, and Rampage, that's plenty. So what we're going to do is I've got Universal Studios booked out to shoot AEW Dark there. It's the home of WCW Worldwide. I think that would be the show I would compare it to more because it's going to be more about younger developmental matches. It's not going to be our, not really our A show, not Dynamite and Rampage, which are our two primary shows. I think this is going to be more like how WCW kind of used Worldwide tapings to get a look at young wrestlers. And when I look back at those shows, and they were some of my favorite shows, you see so much great talent, great veterans like Bobby Eaton, may he rest in peace. And it was this show is for him, and seriously, beautiful Bobby Eaton, one of the great wrestlers, and it was the amount of people here that knew him and were close to him, and talking to people like Arn Anderson, and talking to Tony Schiavone and Chris Jericho and Chavo Guerrero and people who knew him well from WCW and had great stories. It means a lot. He was one of my favorites. So this pay-per-view is dedicated to him and all the great wrestling fans and all the great wrestlers we've lost. But go back to watch Worldwide, and you'd see a guy like beautiful Bobby Eaton wrestling a young Chris Jericho. Or you might see two young guys like young Dean Malenko and young Rey Mysterio on Worldwide. So you get to see great matches that weren't necessarily always on a Nitro. Sometimes those guys would be on a Nitro or Thunder, but they'd get time and chances to work with different people. You might not always see a Bobby Eaton, you might not always see Greg Valentine on Nitro sometimes, but it's going to be a different feel. I think I'm really excited about what we're going to do. Not to compare it directly to that, it's going to be a different show. It's Dark still. But it'll be fun shooting it there. And like I said, it's a little bit lower pressure. I wouldn't necessarily utilize Universal Studios every week for Dynamite or Rampage, and ideally, but you never know. I mean, it's a great facility. But, and honestly, in one point in the pandemic, I did look at it, but Daly's Place being an outdoor venue that was right there for us, I really liked the idea of bringing the fans back in a safe, control way. Jaguars and Daly's Place, right there adjacent to each other, we basically did the same thing, running shows at 25%, socially distanced, putting people in pods, like a drive-in movie or something, and it was very safe, and neither the Jaguars or AEW had any transmission. So I didn't use Universal Studios, but I had thought about it, and now I'm really glad we saved it for the Dark tapings. So it's another great question from AJ. I got time for one or two. Yes.
Okay. My question is, we've been talking about this throughout the entire night. We've been talking about, the signings and, people coming to AEW, it being a destination that people want to go to. Ruby herself even mentioned that she didn't know if there was going to be a place for her here. So my question to you is, when certain amounts of talent become available, how do you decide, what factors do you consider whether or not to bring these people in, especially when social media is going, I hope we see this person in AEW, I hope we see that person in AEW.
You can't bring everyone, and the fans, that's definitely a huge part of it. The fans being interested is a big part of it, and there's sometimes people that I really believe in that maybe the fans aren't necessarily calling for, but you can, not every acquisition is CM Punk, not every acquisition is Bryan Danielson or Ruby Soho or Adam Cole. There are people who are a little bit less heralded. That's why I wasn't really joking. I mean, 2.0 are great wrestlers, and they came from someplace else, and they were released, and they were on the street, and they were looking for work, and I was very happy to take them because they're really great wrestlers, and I was like, I have a spot for those guys, and I have a great spot for them. And Daniel Garcia was doing great things on Dark, and I wanted to put them together, and I thought they could come in, and I, wanted to get a look at them in a trios match on Dynamite against Moxley, Eddie, and Darby, because I thought it would just be really cool to get Moxley, Eddie, Darby, and Sting out there, and you can't use the wingmen in that spot every week. So I wanted to get a look at some new guys, and boy, have they done a great job. So it just, some of it's feel, how the fans feel, and I had them shoot a promo for that match at a Dark taping, and I had them shoot a promo for the Dynamite match, and it got like a huge response on social media the night before the trios match. I was like, I think people are going to be into these guys, and they were. So a lot of it's feel, and it's also just the need, because there's a lot of great wrestlers. It's not, I haven't signed them because we don't like them, or I don't like them. There's a lot of people I like that I just haven't been able to sign because there's only 3 hours of television, and there's only so many spots. But it's a great question, and it's really just gut feel, and honestly, there's been some that I maybe would have wanted at times that we didn't get, but then sometimes they even come back around. There's been people that I wanted, and it worked out in the end, and they're here. So I will say this: from the competition, if I could pick 2 people, and I mean this from the bottom of my heart, if I could have picked 2 people from the men's roster in our competition, they would absolutely have been Adam Cole and Bryan Danielson. Absolutely. Is there anybody who, which I feel very blessed they're here, is there anybody who has not gotten to ask any questions all night, who has not asked a question? Yes?
Sky Blue got a great reaction tonight. Is there any plans to bring her in?
Yeah, but I keep using Sky Blue. It was a very organic moment last night. She did great, and that was on the fly. It was audible. So it just felt right and had to go out and do it. She's doing tremendous, and that's why, like I said, I was the agent on the Battle Royal, and I wanted to put her in a prominent position. I thought she'd do really well, and she came out, and what she did was she got a great reaction, and she helped the match in the beginning keep the match hot, and then there was another wave of people coming in, and that match is about moments and pops and waves and featuring different stars, and she got a great reaction and helped us keep that match hot at the beginning, and then I think she's got a great future, so she can do a lot for us, and absolutely. On Friday night, the reaction she got, it was an easy decision for me to make.
Tony, tonight was the second time that Jorge Masvidal got some airtime in AEW. Any future with him and you guys?
It's more than, he's been here more than 2 times, but he's only, I think, been on TV a couple times because he's great. I love Georgie. He comes, hangs out, and I've hung out with him in Miami a bit. We're both really good friends with Dan Lambert. I love Dan Lambert, and off camera, I'll make no bones about that. He is one of the most genuine people. He loves wrestling as much as anyone, and that's why he's here. And he's done good work in wrestling before, not on this big of a stage, but he's got a great mind for wrestling, and that's the thing. Like, anybody who knows Dan loves Dan, and that's why Georgie comes, because he loves wrestling. He likes having a good time. I think he likes me. I like Georgie a lot, and it's fun having him here. So it's really it was an honor to have George Masvidal. I mean, Georgie's such a cool guy, man. I can't tell you what a nice person he is, and he's always been really good to me, like, not when we're at shows, but just like around Florida and stuff. And it was a big deal for him to come here, and who knows, I just think American Top Team now with Scorpio Sky, who's made a long-term commitment now to AEW. We of course just signed Ethan Page very recently, and I just extended Scorpio Sky, and I really believe in him, and I really believe in both of them, and I really believe in Dan Lambert and American Top Team, that they can be a big force here, and they're a looming presence tonight. So it was really cool that Georgie and Andre and Jr., of course, also came with Dan. All right, this is the last one.
Tony, thank you.
Sure.
I used the word historic on social media about ever since you guys did Rampage, the first dance, and now tonight with Bryan and Punk Wrestling. How do you feel about the landscape in professional wrestling changing, and the majority of the people now, from what I see on social media, wanting pro wrestling, Punk coming in saying pro wrestling, Bryan pro wrestling? How does that make you feel, and what's the mindset about that? And do you feel that at all?
It's my mindset. It's my mindset.
know.
Pro wrestling is my mindset. Tonight, Excalibur said, Kenny, when Kenny brained him with the belt, Kenny said he hit him with a championship title, and I said, Excalibur, you can say belt, bro. And so those are not banned words here. Pro wrestling is the least banned word. I use it all the time. You hear me thank the wrestling fans. That's what we're doing here. Wrestling fans watch the wrestling program. As somebody I look up to said, wrestling fans watch the wrestling program to see the wrestlers wrestle. And even if I don't always follow everything he says, or haven't always made him happy, that is probably the person I learned the most about the wrestling business from, and I don't think he would probably take a lot of credit for me as his protege, but the fact is he's right about that. And, historic, indelible, they're great words. And I had a really good feeling about tonight, and a lot of times when you have a great feeling about the show on paper, we've done 100 Dynamites, we've done 4 Rampages, we've done 10 pay-per-views, we've done a lot of shows. Usually when they feel really good on paper, unless some bad accident happens or either in production or God forbid in the ring or something, there's none of that. It was a perfect night, and it didn't feel like, it just felt like the card was perfect, the moments were perfect, the signings were perfect, the fans were perfect, the night was perfect, the momentum, the environment, it was a perfect night, truly. And I'm really glad all of you were here, and I hope I got to everyone's questions, and that's why I wanted to stay and talk to all of you. Thank you very much.
Thank you.